Starring at 5 different credit card statements spread across your kitchen table at 11 p.m., calculator in hand, and you have absolutely no idea which one to pay first. And that confusion is costing you thousands of dollars you'll never get back. Maybe it's credit cards. Maybe it's student loans, a car payment, and some personal loan you took out 2 years ago that seemed like a good idea at the time. Whatever it is, you've got multiple debts screaming for attention, limited money to throw at them, and every financial guru on the internet is telling you something different. Dave Ramsey says smallest balance first. Suze Orman says highest interest rate. Your cousin who took one economics class says to just pay the minimums and invest the difference. And you're sitting there, paralyzed, doing nothing because you can't figure out what's actually right. Here's what nobody tells you. The order you pay off debt isn't just about math. It's about psychology, momentum, and understanding how your brain actually works when it's buried under financial pressure. And yeah, there's a mathematically optimal strategy that'll save you the most money, but if that strategy makes you quit after 3 months because you see zero progress, it's worthless. But here's the thing that's going to sound crazy. Most people are paying off their debt in the exact wrong order. They're following advice that sounds logical but completely ignores how human beings actually function under stress. They're optimizing for spreadsheets instead of success. And after 5 years of struggle, they've made minimum progress and are ready to give up entirely. My name is Sten, and I spend way too much time obsessing over why smart people make dumb financial decisions and how psychology and math collide when you're trying to escape debt. If you want to understand the real mechanics behind getting out of debt faster, not just the generic advice that sounds good but doesn't actually work for real humans with real psychology, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it ends up helping you see your debt payoff strategy differently. Here's why this matters right now. Credit card debt in America just hit $1.13 trillion. Student loan debt is at $1.77 trillion. The average American household with debt is carrying over $145,000 when you include mortgages. And interest rates, they're higher than they've been in 15 years. That credit card you opened 3 years ago at 16.99%, it's probably closer to 24% now. Which means every month you waste using the wrong payoff strategy, you're hemorrhaging money in interest that compounds against you. I'm going to show you the smartest order to pay off debt. And it's not what you think. We're going to talk about 3 different strategies when each one actually works, and most importantly, which debts to attack first based on your specific situation. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which debt to focus on, how much to pay, and why this order will save you thousands while keeping you motivated enough to actually finish. Here's the framework that makes this simple. Every debt payoff strategy is trying to optimize for one of 2 things: maximum mathematical efficiency or maximum psychological momentum. Neither one is inherently better. The question is which one will actually get you to the finish line. Because here's what I've learned watching hundreds of people try to escape debt. The best strategy on paper is worthless if you quit. The strategy that keeps you going, that's the one that wins. Let's start with the strategy everyone's heard of but most people completely misunderstand. The debt snowball, smallest balance first. Let's talk about something that sounds almost childishly simple, like you're ignoring basic mathematics in favor of feelings, paying off your smallest debt first regardless of interest rate. Every spreadsheet warrior on Reddit will tell you this is stupid. They'll show you calculations proving you're wasting money. They'll call it the financially illiterate method. And yet research from Harvard Business School shows that people using this method are significantly more likely to become completely debt-free than people using any other strategy. Here's what's really happening. When you pay off your smallest debt first, you're not optimizing for minimum interest paid. You're optimizing for psychological wins. And here's the thing nobody wants to admit. Your brain doesn't care about compound interest when it's drowning. It cares about seeing progress. It cares about eliminating threats. It cares about feeling like you're actually getting somewhere instead of treading water forever. The research shows that people who eliminate one debt entirely, even if it's just a $500 medical bill, are 20% more likely to stick with their debt payoff plan long-term. That first win creates momentum. You see an account balance hit 0. You close that account. You redirect that payment to the next debt. And suddenly, after months of feeling stuck, you feel like you're actually winning. Let me break down the math with a concrete example. You've got 5 debts. Credit card A, $800 balance at 24% interest, $25 minimum payment. Credit card B, $3,200 balance at 19% interest, $80 minimum payment. Student loan, $15,000 balance at 6% interest, $175 minimum payment. Car loan, $8,000 balance at 7% interest, $250 minimum payment. Personal loan, $2,000 balance at 12% interest, $60 minimum payment. Your total minimum payments are $590. You've got $800 total to throw at debt this month, which means $210 above minimums. Using the debt snowball, you throw that entire $210 at credit card A. By month 2, credit card A is completely gone. That's one debt eliminated, one statement you don't have to look at anymore, one payment you can redirect elsewhere. Now you've got $235 extra per month, $25 from the eliminated payment plus your original $210 extra to throw at the next smallest debt, that $2,000 personal loan. At this pace, the personal loan is gone in about 8 months. Then you've got $295 extra to attack credit card B. The momentum builds. Each eliminated debt makes the next one fall faster. Here's the psychology. Every eliminated debt is a dopamine hit. Your brain releases the same neurochemicals it would if you physically removed a threat from your environment. You're not just reducing abstract numbers on a spreadsheet. You're eliminating entire sources of stress. And that feeling keeps you going when the mathematically optimal strategy would have you chipping away at 5 debts simultaneously for years before seeing any of them hit zero. Compare this to attacking the highest interest debt first. In that scenario, you'd throw your $210 at credit card A, which happens to also be the highest interest, eliminate it in 2 months, then throw everything at credit card B. You'd pay that off, then attack the personal loan. Mathematically, you'd save maybe $200, $300 in interest over the life of the payoff compared to pure smallest balance first. But here's the irony. Research shows that most people using the mathematically optimal method quit before they finish. They spend 8 months watching a $3,200 balance slowly shrink to $2,400 while still juggling 5 different debts. They never get the psychological win of an eliminated debt. They burn out. And when they quit, they don't just lose that $200 in interest savings. They lose everything and stay in debt for years longer. So you're mathematically optimizing yourself into failure. You're playing a game where being technically correct means you lose, the debt avalanche. Highest interest rate first. Now let's talk about the strategy that makes perfect sense on paper and absolutely should be the one you use, if and only if you're the type of person who can stay motivated without frequent psychological wins. The debt avalanche means attacking your highest interest rate debt first, regardless of balance. Mathematically, this is optimal. You're minimizing the amount of interest that compounds against you. Every dollar you throw at high-interest debt saves you more future dollars than attacking low-interest debt. The math is unambiguous. Using our same example debts, the avalanche method means throwing your extra $210 at credit card A, 24% interest first. Once that's gone, you attack credit card B, 19% interest. Then the personal loan, 12%, then the car loan, 7%, then finally the student loan, 6%. This order minimizes total interest paid. Let's run the actual numbers. If you consistently pay $800 monthly toward all debts using the avalanche method, you'll be completely debt-free in about 3 years and 2 months. Total interest paid, approximately $4,300 using the snowball method with the same $800 monthly payment, you'd be debt-free in about 3 years and 4 months. Total interest paid, approximately $4,600. The avalanche method saves you $300 and gets you out of debt 2 months faster. That's real money. That's meaningful. And if you're someone who can stay motivated by watching interest charges shrink on a spreadsheet, this is absolutely the method you should use. Here's what's really happening with the avalanche method. You're making an intellectually sound decision that your future self will thank you for. You're choosing to endure more psychological discomfort now, watching multiple debts persist while you chip away at one big one in exchange for mathematical optimization. You're essentially saying, I can handle the lack of quick wins because I understand the math. And look, some people can. If you're naturally disciplined, if you get satisfaction from knowing you're being mathematically optimal even when you can't see obvious progress, if you can look at an amortization schedule and feel motivated by numbers shifting, the avalanche method is perfect for you. But here's the scary part. MIT research shows that only about 35% of people can maintain motivation with this approach. The other 65%, they need those psychological wins. They need to see accounts hit zero. They need to feel like they're making visible progress, not just optimal progress. Think about it this way. Imagine you're climbing 5 mountains simultaneously. The avalanche method says climb the steepest one first because conquering difficult terrain makes the easier mountains trivial by comparison. That's logically sound, but psychologically, you're going to spend months staring at 4 other mountains while barely making progress up one steep face. Meanwhile, the snowball method says knock out the smallest hill first, then the next one, building confidence and momentum before tackling the really big climbs. Neither approach is wrong. They're optimizing for different things. And here's what everyone gets confused about. The best strategy isn't the one that saves the most money on paper. The best strategy is the one you'll actually complete. But here's where things get really interesting, and where most people completely miss the strategy that's actually smartest for their situation. Because there's a third approach that almost nobody talks about, and it's the one that can save you the most money while keeping you psychologically engaged. I call it the hybrid method, and it's about being strategic instead of dogmatic. The hybrid method, strategic psychological wins. Here's the thing that debt payoff purists don't want to admit. You can combine the snowball and avalanche methods. You can get psychological wins and mathematical optimization. You just have to be smart about which debts to target first. The hybrid method works like this. You identify your debts that are both small enough to eliminate quickly and high enough interest to matter mathematically. These are your priority targets. You knock them out fast, get the dopamine hit, and maximize interest savings simultaneously. Then you switch between snowball and avalanche depending on what you need to stay motivated. Let's go back to our example debts and run this strategy. Credit card A, $800 at 24% interest. Personal loan, $2,000 at 12% interest. Credit card B, $3,200 at 19% interest. Car loan, $8,000 at 7% interest. Student loan, $15,000 at 6% interest. The hybrid approach says, start with credit card A because it's both the smallest and the highest interest. That's a no-brainer. You get maximum psychological and mathematical benefit. Throw your extra $210 at it, eliminate it in 2 months. Now here's where the strategy gets interesting. Your next move isn't automatic. You look at what's left and ask, where's my next quick win that also matters mathematically? In this case, that personal loan at $2,000 and 12% interest is calling to you. It's not the highest interest remaining, credit card B at 19% is, but it's small enough to eliminate in about 8 months, and that 12% interest is still high enough that you're saving real money by killing it. You attack it next. Then you pivot to pure avalanche. Credit card B at 19%, then car loan at 7%, then student loan at 6%. By this point, you've gotten 2 psychological wins in your first year, you've eliminated your 2 highest interest rates, and you're fired up enough to stick with it. Here's what this actually saves you. Using the hybrid method with $800 monthly payments, you're debt-free in about 3 years and 3 months. Total interest paid, approximately $4,400. You've split the difference between snowball and avalanche, saved yourself $200 compared to pure snowball, and only cost yourself $100 compared to pure avalanche. And this is huge. You've gotten 2 complete debt eliminations in your first year, 2 accounts closed, 2 monthly statements you don't have to look at anymore. That psychological momentum means you're far more likely to actually finish than if you'd spent 12 months watching a $3,200 balance slowly tick down while still juggling 5 debts. The math difference between these strategies over 3+ years is real but not life-changing. We're talking $200, 300. The psychological difference is massive. The completion rate difference is everything. The exception, toxic debt versus manageable debt. Now here's where we need to talk about something critical that changes the entire strategy. Not all debt is created equal, and some debt is so toxic that it needs to be killed immediately regardless of balance or your preferred method. I'm talking about debt that's actively destroying your financial life. Payday loans at 400% APR, credit cards that have gone to collections with penalty interest rates of 29.99%, personal loans from predatory lenders charging 35% interest. This isn't normal debt. This is a financial hemorrhage. If you have toxic debt, anything above 25% interest or anything in collections that's threatening legal action, you ignore both the snowball and avalanche methods. You throw every available dollar at that toxic debt first. Cut your budget to the bone, sell stuff, work extra hours. Do whatever it takes to eliminate the financial equivalent of a bleeding wound. Here's why toxic debt compounds so aggressively that every month you let it exist costs you more than you'd save with any other strategy. A $2,000 payday loan at 400% APR is costing you $67 per month in interest alone. That's $800 per year just to maintain a $2,000 debt. Kill it immediately, even if it means putting other debts on pure minimum payments temporarily. Once toxic debt is eliminated, then you can return to snowball, avalanche, or hybrid depending on your psychology. The real question, what type of person are you? Here's what everyone misses in these debates about debt payoff strategies. The right method depends entirely on your psychology, not universal truth. Let me break down who should use which strategy. Use the snowball method if you need frequent psychological wins to stay motivated. You've tried paying off debt before and quit because progress felt invisible. You have multiple small debts under $2,000 that you can eliminate quickly. You're the type of person who gets energized by checking things off a list. Seeing an account balance hit zero gives you more motivation than saving $200 in interest. I've seen this work incredibly well for people who are naturally motivated by visible progress. You're the person who makes daily to-do lists and feels amazing crossing things off. You're the person who loses weight better when you see the scale move every week rather than trusting a long-term plan. Use the snowball, get those wins, build that momentum. Use the avalanche method if you're naturally analytical and get satisfaction from mathematical optimization. You can stay motivated looking at spreadsheets showing reduced interest charges. You're patient enough to attack one large debt for 12+ months without getting discouraged. You have relatively few debts, 3 or fewer, so you don't need the psychological boost of multiple eliminations. The idea of paying unnecessary interest genuinely bothers you more than lack of visible progress. This works for people who are intellectually motivated. You're the type who reads personal finance research papers for fun. You get more satisfaction from knowing you made the mathematically optimal choice than from seeing quick results. You're playing the long game and you're okay with delayed gratification. Use the hybrid method if you want both psychological wins and mathematical optimization. You have a mix of small high-interest debts and large low-interest debts. You're self-aware enough to know when you need a motivation boost versus when you can grind. You're willing to be strategic and flexible rather than following one rigid approach. You have at least one debt that's both relatively small and relatively high interest. This is actually my recommendation for most people because it acknowledges that you're a complex human being, not a calculator. Some months you'll need the boost of eliminating a debt. Some months you can focus on pure mathematical optimization. The hybrid method lets you adapt. The order within your chosen strategy. Once you've picked your overall strategy, you still need to make smart decisions about debt order. Here are the rules. First, separate your debts into categories. Toxic debt 25% plus interest or in collections. Kill these immediately regardless of strategy. High interest debt 15-25% interest. These are typically credit cards and personal loans. Medium interest debt 6-15% interest. Usually car loans, some student loans, medical payment plans. Low interest debt 0-6% interest. Often student loans, mortgages, some auto loans. If you're using Snowball, you order by balance within each category. If you're using Avalanche, you order by interest rate. If you're using Hybrid, you look for the sweet spot of small plus high interest. But here's a critical rule that trumps everything. Always pay minimums on all debts first. I cannot stress this enough. The strategies I'm talking about apply to your extra payment, the money beyond minimums. Never skip a minimum payment to throw more at your target debt. That's how you destroy your credit score and trigger late fees that make everything worse. Your formula is total monthly debt money, all minimum payments equals extra payment for your target debt. What about good debt versus bad debt? People are always asking, should I pay off my mortgage? Should I kill my student loans or invest? This is where we need to talk about the interest rate crossover point. Here's the rule. If your debt interest rate is below 6%, you should probably pay the minimum and invest the difference in index funds instead. The historical stock market return is about 10% annually. If your student loan is at 4%, you're mathematically better off making minimum payments and investing extra cash where it'll earn 10% rather than saving 4% by paying down the loan. But and this is important, that's only if you're actually disciplined enough to invest the difference. Most people say they'll invest it, then they spend it. Be honest with yourself. If seeing debt numbers go down motivates you more than watching investment accounts grow, pay off the debt even if it's mathematically suboptimal. Also, there's something to be said for the psychological freedom of being completely debt-free. I know people who have mortgages at 3% who are aggressively paying them off instead of investing more. Mathematically, they're leaving money on the table. Psychologically, they sleep better at night knowing they own their home outright. That peace of mind has value even if it doesn't show up in spreadsheets. The timeline and milestones. Let me give you realistic expectations for different debt levels. These assume you're paying $800 monthly total toward debt. If you have $10,000 in debt, 15-18 months to debt freedom using any method. The strategy choice barely matters at this level. Just pick one and execute. If you have $25,000 in debt, 3-4 years to debt freedom. Strategy choice matters more here. Snowball might get you there in 42 months, Avalanche in 38 months. Choose based on your psychology. If you have $50,000+ in debt, 5-8+ years to debt freedom. Strategy matters a lot because you need sustained motivation. I strongly recommend hybrid method for this level because you'll need psychological wins along the way to keep going. Here's what you need to understand. Debt payoff is a marathon, not a sprint. That's not just motivational garbage, it's mathematical reality. Unless you have a massive windfall, you're going to be doing this for years. Which means the strategy that keeps you going is the strategy that wins, even if it costs you a few $100s extra in interest. Your action plan right now. Here's what you do today, not next week, not after you figure things out today. First, list every debt you have. Balance, interest rate, minimum payment, write it down. You can't strategize what you don't clearly see. Second, identify if you have any toxic debt above 25% interest. If yes, that becomes target number one regardless of anything else I've said. Third, decide which strategy fits your psychology. Be honest. Don't choose Avalanche because it sounds smarter if you know you need quick wins. Don't choose Snowball if you're genuinely motivated by mathematical optimization. Fourth, calculate your extra payment amount. Total debt money minus all minimums equals what you throw at your target debt. Fifth, set up automatic payments. The target debt gets minimum plus entire extra payment. Everything else gets minimum only. Automate this so you're not making decisions every month. Your future self is counting on the decision you make right now. Every month you spend with the wrong strategy, or worse, with no strategy at all, is costing you money and time you'll never get back. The difference between finishing in 3 years versus 5 years isn't just 24 extra months of payments. It's 24 months of interest compounding against you. It's 24 months of psychological weight. It's 24 months of your life spent juggling statements instead of building wealth. The smartest order to pay off debt isn't the same for everyone. It's the order that matches your psychology while respecting mathematical reality. Pick your strategy, execute relentlessly, and remember, the best debt payoff plan is the one you actually complete. Trust me, your future self will thank you for starting today instead of spending another 3 months researching the perfect approach that doesn't exist.